Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji, for giving you the time to join us and enlightening us with some of the Harikatha. So just to say a few words about Ananga Manjari Mataji. She is a direct disciple of Srila Prabhupada. She has dedicated her life to theological teachings of the Vedas and their spiritual practices for almost or more than 50 years under the guidance of her spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. As an interfaith Reverend Doctor, counselor, and inspirational speaker, she shares her complete insight from broad spiritual perspective that combines both Western thoughts and experiences with a profound ancient Vedic teaching. She offers a practical and a fresh perspective on how to live the bhakti life and also love the life of bhakti. And she's mother of very famous kirtanier, performer, and his name is Vishwambar Seth, and he's the Mayapuri's fame, all of you know, and he's also an inspirational speaker. Her daughter Ganga Devi is also an acclaimed Odissi performer, and another daughter is Jamuna, and she's a creative artist. So she is having the full full package to lead the path of bhakti, the guidance of Srila Prabhupada. So without further ado, Mataji, thank you so much, and please take us through the journey.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to share what I've learned from Prabhupada. That's what he wanted from all of us, is to imbibe his teachings and the love that he had for Krishna and to share that with others. That's pretty much sums up the essence of what Krishna consciousness is all about. It's a generous process. So today we're speaking about embracing Krishna as time in these challenging times. We're all experiencing the effects of what this COVID has done to the whole world. Everyone is affected. And when these things happen, we are all equal. It equalizes. Time is the great equalizer. In time, these events take place and no one is exempt. And we also have very challenging times, politically speaking, now in America especially, and around the world. There's always been political upheaval. It has come to a point of disturbing many people. So we're in these challenging times, and how do we deal with it? How do we see these things? When we say we, those who are trying to be devoted to the Lord, how do we take these events and daily in our life struggle with these choices that we have to make and ways of how to behave and how to think and how to speak for others and for our families and for the society, because we're servants of all. So first we want to establish that the great energy of time is Krishna. And we know in so many quotes from Shastra, Vedic Shastra, how Krishna is time. And other Shastras too. How the Lord acts as inevitable, inexplicable time. So we know Krishna in Bhagavad Gita says, of subduers I am time. So every generation has to undergo some kind of tragedy. Pretty much every generation undergoes some kind of tragedy. And we have wars, and we have bombs, and we have COVID, and we have, so many other unwanted events. The Twin Towers break down. That was a shock for Americans. It was a shock for everyone living in this country and, of course, everywhere else. It's like, what's happening to America? Never happened before, quite like that. So these things, the wars, the bombs, the airplanes that come and break down our buildings and kill people, and the COVID, these things are just messengers of time. They are the messengers of time. They're the message. Krishna is sending a message. God is sending a message. Whether you can say whether it's the sinful activities of the people that cause this, or whether, but ultimately Krishna wills it. Ultimately, not a blade of grass moves, what to speak of these other terrible events, catastrophic events. So these things are just the message. And the message is, well, that's for each of us to dig deep within our hearts and minds and to find out what is the message meant for me. Because with one action that the Lord performs, it affects many, many different events and people. It affects many different lives in different ways. It affects many different events in different ways. It'll affect different countries in different ways. So it's for each of us to find out, what is the message Krishna is sending me at this time? How am I affected? Everyone is affected in different ways. We take it differently because we're individuals eternally. So it's inevitable that everything is subdued in time. Life culminates in death, and death enables new life. That's the cycle of life. So time destroys and time creates in constant cycles, and it's constantly changing. So what is good will change to difficult, and what is difficult will change back to good or easy. That is inevitable. As the winds of time erode great mountains, the very breath that sustains us is also eroding our life within time. Every breath we take, our time is eroding, our life is eroding. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, time I am, the destroyer of the worlds. I come to engage everyone. So what is that engagement? The engagement that we are engaged in as jivas in this world is we're engaged in actions and reactions within the three moods of material nature. Moods are modes of material nature. We are acting and we get a reaction. We produce the byproducts of that action. We have to enjoy or suffer the consequences of those actions that we perform. So, time doesn't control our intention, though. Yes, time is going on. You act, there's a reaction, we're all within time, but it doesn't control the intention, our desire that we have. It only facilitates the desire we have. We say man proposes, God disposes. So sometimes time or Krishna will facilitate our desire according to what we want, and sometimes he switches it up and changes it a bit. And he says, well, I'll give you this, but I'll give it to you in this way, because this is what's best for you ultimately. So he doesn't control our intention, our desire of what we want. So what do we want? We have to ask ourselves that all the time. We should be checking ourselves. After so many desires and births and deaths that we've experienced, we have to look and say, well, what is it? I've had these desires. I had that desire. I had this one. But what is it that I want now? And be honest with ourselves. Honest with ourselves and honest with the Lord. So we want to know what is our intention that I should be engaging and concentrating on, because whatever I focus on, that will become what will be most prominent in my life. That is what I end up identifying with, is what I concentrate on. So time doesn't control our intention, it facilitates it. Krishna as time comes to every person. Every one of us is affected by these things. It comes to every country, it comes to every generation. And now in America, our time is running out. The tide of our life has changed due to COVID chaos. I call it COVID chaos. And this political upheaval that we are all experiencing. So what do we do? What to do? What to do? Our identity is not dependent on the situation. Our identity is dependent on our response to the situations that are present before us. As spiritual beings, Jiva, we'll go back to Bhagavad Gita. We are Jiva, spiritual beings, and we're having a physical experience. We're having a bodily, physical experience in this world because we're marginal. So sometimes we're with the Lord, we're uncovered. Sometimes our consciousness is uncovered and it's love of God. That's our pure Jiva self. And sometimes we are covered, just like the sand on the shore of the ocean. Sometimes it's covered by the water and sometimes it's uncovered and you see all the different little things in the sand. So just like that, we are marginal potency of the Lord, sometimes covered, sometimes uncovered. But time and tide wait for no man or woman or any living entity. The tide keeps coming in and out. Time keeps changing everything, covered, uncovered. And it all depends on our intention. And that is not controlled by anyone. It is up to us. That's the only independence we have, is our desire to lean towards Krishna or lean towards the material energy that I am the best. I am the controller. I am the owner of everything I survey. That's the only choice we have. And with that choice, so many amazing things can happen. We choose the right thing. And so many amazing things that are not so nice can also happen. And so we experience this world. We go through this world like this. We know the 5 truths of the Gita. Basically, it's in time, the Jiva acts in different moods of Prakriti, the different modes of nature, creating corresponding reactions, karma, that bring him either closer or further from the Purusha, from Krishna. So really it's up to us. But those are the 5 truths. And out of these 5, they are all eternal, except karma is not eternal. So karma is not the cause of everything. We always say, anytime we see someone suffering, oh, that's their karma. Not necessarily. And I'll support that with Srimad Bhagavatam Shastra. Karma is not the cause of everything. And that's why we question. Well, it seems like even good people are suffering. Why do good people suffer? Why do pious people suffer? Why do great devotees suffer? Why do those who have surrendered their life to Krishna, why do they suffer? Is it karma? Well, Bhishma Dev had a different reason, and we'll get to that in a minute. Bhishma Dev was lying on the bed of arrows, and he's giving his best. He's giving his all to Yudhisthira. And basically, he says, this is all from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1. He's saying, by the tricks of eternal time. Everyone is carried away, just as the clouds are carried by the wind. So sarva kala kritam manye. The tricks of inevitable time carries us away like the clouds. We get carried away. No control over it. So therefore, even the most pious and faithful to the Lord suffer due to inconceivable actions of time. It's not necessarily their karma. And Bhishma actually says to Yudhisthira, it's not your karma. Yudhisthira is lamenting, I've killed so many people, I've hurt so many families, people are suffering because of me, and now I'm causing more suffering just to become king. Oh, my bad karma, I'm creating more bad karma by causing this suffering. Yes, causing others to suffer is the worst karma you will accrue on yourself. So if you're a mean, cruel person, you will suffer. That is a fact. But in this case, Bhishma is saying, no, it was the inexplicable will of the Lord. He explains that in spite of the Pandavas having all material facility, they had all the best weapons, the best warriors on their side, the best army. They had Bhima, who was the most powerful. They had celestial weapons. They even had the blessings of the gods, the demigods. They had celestial weapons of Arjuna, and they had even Krishna as their friend. And still they suffered so much. So this is the inexplicable will of the time, of Krishna as time. It's kala, not karma. This is what Bhishma is explaining. And he's saying that the Lord wanted to execute his plan to establish virtue and punish the inimical. And this is what the Lord always comes for. Yada yada hi dharmasya. He's always coming to do this. He's establishing virtue and pleasing those, bringing them closer to him, those who are devoted. And those who are inimical, he's either punishing or he's giving them a chance to come closer to him. Now you're suffering so much, maybe you will surrender to the power that's greater than you. Time, me, Krishna, the Lord. He always wants to show that vice cannot conquer virtue. So yes, sometimes in the middle of these great events that the Lord has to create to enable this separation of the the rice from the chaff, the good from the bad, the evil from the pious. And in this, sometimes some of the rice, when you shuffle the rice and you're separating the chaff, the coverings from the actual rice that's beneficial, sometimes some grains of rice have to get thrown in the chaff. But don't think that the Lord is ignoring that. Don't think that everyone in the Twin Towers was suffering due to their bad karma. Some of them were accruing the result of their good karma. Maybe some were devoted to the Lord and trying to be devoted. And so okay, I'm going to take you now. You don't know. We don't know what is in everyone's heart. We cannot be so quick to judge and quick to condemn and quick to, just throw out the karma jargon. We must be very careful. Because anytime we make even the slightest mistake in hurting another living entity, man, woman, child, animal, insect, we will have to suffer something. Whether you're a Hare Krishna devotee or whether you're a Christian or whether doesn't matter who you are. If you hurt others, you will suffer. Because it's not saintly behavior. Krishna wanted to show that even the great Bhishma Dev, who was the grandsire of all the great Pandavas and the Kurus, even he had to suffer. Even he was subdued. He's lying on a bed of arrows. He neglected to protect Draupadi in the middle of her becoming practically raped in public in this arena of great souls. And he was one of them who neglected to protect and speak up. And now he's lying on a bed of arrows. So even the great Bhishma has to suffer. What to speak of us? We're not exempt from suffering, either because of our behavior and actions or wrong intentions, or sometimes even the innocent suffer due to the inexplicable will of the Lord. Bali Maharaj was surrendering everything to Krishna. Still, he had to go and serve in the hellish planets. He had to become the king of the hellish planets. And in the purport there, in that story, Prabhupada points out that Krishna was trying to glorify him to all the world. Look how tolerant my devotee is, that he's willing to go and work in the hellish planets because that's what I'm requesting of him, even though he is a saintly, surrendered soul. So he's glorifying him. Even Srila Prabhupada suffered so much. He was poor. He had a heart attack on the way to America. He was writing his transcripts of Bhagavad Gita. He had so many stacks of typing on a not an electronic typewriter, on a old-fashioned clickety-click typewriter. And then someone stole the typewriter, stole the manuscripts. Why would they steal manuscripts? What were they going to do with that? And he had to start all the way again from the beginning. He's in this foreign land with no money, few paisa, basically, in New York City, in the snow, cold, which he had never experienced before in his life. At the age of 70, he underwent so much suffering. He was homeless. He was living with the bums in the street. We read these stories of how he was living on the Bowery. It's almost like Calcutta. God forbid. So, Prabhupada also suffered in his family life. He had a son who, in his youth, Prabhupada had taught him all the Shastra, all the scripture, and the little boy was very cooperative and intelligent. But when he became a young man, something had happened and disturbed his mind, and he went, a little insane in his mind, and he started running away from home, eating garbage out of the streets, living as a homeless person. And Prabhupada's sister Pishima, and they would try to bring him back. The neighbors, they would try to find him, bring him home, try to find some cure and some help for him. He kept running off. Even after Prabhupada established ISKCON society, he met one of his old friends from Calcutta, a neighbor, and he said, "Have you seen my son?" He was still concerned. He was still pained by this. "My son is suffering out in the world, out in the street." And the man said, "Yes, Babu, I did see. I saw your son. And he noticed me. He was eating some garbage out of a garbage can in Calcutta. And he noticed me and he waved and said, 'Oh, hey, Baba, how are you?' And I said, come to my home. I'll feed you. I'll give you a meal. I'll help you. Come. And he ran away because he wasn't in his right mind. And now Prabhupada has come to the Western country and saved so many very, very similar sons and daughters. So it doesn't mean he doesn't understand our suffering. I wanted to bring this story out to make that point. Prabhupada knows your suffering as a mother, as a father, as a human being. He's experienced it. Pure devotee doesn't mean you don't feel. You feel more, paradukha dukhi. You feel more for the suffering of others. But then you know what to do about it. But that feeling doesn't just go away. It doesn't mean you become hard-hearted and dismissive of others' suffering. No, you feel it and you want to help in whatever way you can. Anyway, so what's the message of time? What is the message of time that Krishna is sending these catastrophes to happen, COVID and other catastrophes? What is the message of these things? Well, Bhagavatam says, avigyata chestita, the unknown activities of the Lord. We don't understand. We don't know why always. The Lord has a higher spiritual intention, and they're unknown to the blind, conditioned souls with their petty material logic. That's a quote from one of the purports Prabhupada wrote. And of course, he also wrote that even the great saints cannot always understand the Lord's actions. So it's avigyata, unknown actions of the Lord. But we know something for sure. What do we know for sure? We know that Krishna's purpose is yada yada hi dharmasya. He always comes to establish virtue and minimize the burden of the earth, punish the inimical. That's his sole interest. He encourages the devotees and bewilders the inimical. Just like when in the pastime of Uddhava, speaking with Krishna about the Yadavas, the situation of the end of the Yadu dynasty, Uddhava is saying, Krishna, you could have just said, the curse doesn't matter to my devotees. He could have said that, but he didn't. He told all of his Yadavas, you go to Prabhas to take a bath because that's auspicious. Now Uddhava is saying, but you told them to leave auspicious Dwarka where you are residing. So what could be more auspicious than that? Why are you telling them to go to Prabhas and take a bath there because it's more auspicious? You're the one that's the most auspicious and you're here in Dwarka. So Krishna had his purpose, that he didn't want the end of the Yadus could not take place in such a sacred place as Dwarka. So he had it take place there in Prabhas. And this shows that what is the meaning of auspicious things or inauspicious things? It's wherever virtue and the Lord reside, that is auspicious. And Krishna had his purpose, avigyata, unknown. And he left a material body behind, more or less. So he gave Brigu, during this whole thing, he's giving the Yadus their just dues because they became too big for their britches, you can say. They became a little too proud. Oh, we are the Yadus, nothing can conquer us. We are unconquerable, we are the greatest. So Krishna had to subdue them in time, in his time, his way. At the same time, Brigu, who became Jada the hunter. So you know the story, Brigu had kicked the Lord on his chest with his foot. So that was a great offense. So he had to take later on birth as this hunter in the forest, low grade hunter, as Jara. And then by accident, he thought the Lord's foot was the mouth of a deer and he hit it. And he immediately became remorseful, repentant. That's why in almost every religion, there is some way for a human being to express their remorse, their repentance for something that they've done wrong, for how they've hurt others. So this is there in pretty much every religion, because it is a cleansing. So because he was so remorseful, the Lord forgave him and gave him a chance to become closer to him. So the Lord, with one action, arranges many different events. That's always auspicious and beneficial, however you look at it, whatever side of it that you're on, whatever side you put yourself on, you have that choice. So Bhishma is telling Yudhishthira that even the most faithful, even the most pious, suffer due to the inconceivable actions of time. And one should not begrudge this. Prabhupada explains there's nothing to lament and no one to blame when a matter is beyond the control of any human being. So that doesn't mean we don't act as much as we can. As human beings, we must do our part. But at some point, when we realize there's nothing more I can do, I can't control the situation, I can't affect the situation anymore, then we throw our hands up. Just like Draupadi, when her sari was getting taken off. It wasn't wrong for her to be holding on and trying to pull herself away from Dushashan. It wasn't wrong. It's not wrong to defend yourself and your defend your intelligence, your chastity, your integrity, your abilities. It's not wrong. Someone is trying to usurp you, you are going to fight back. There's nothing wrong with that. She was, as a human being, she was performing her duty as a devotee. She was doing all she could do, not to disturb the Lord unnecessarily for every little tiny thing. We take control of our lives. We have some amount of control. It's limited, believe me, but it's some amount. So within that amount, we have the duty. It's our right and our duty and our inheritance to, Krishna's the ability in man and woman, Krishna's the ability in human beings. So we use that ability, whatever he gave us, whatever intelligence, strength, knowledge, and we protect what is right. So Draupadi was right in trying to fight. When she saw, oh my God, this Dushashan there's no way I can defeat him. There's no way I'm going to win. And no one here is helping. No one is stopping this activity. So I have no recourse but to call on Govinda. Hey, Govinda. That's when we call on the Lord. First, we do everything we can in our power, and the Lord blesses us and helps us. And when it's beyond our power of any human being, then it's the inexplicable will of the Lord. We have to appeal to his help, his love, his mercy, his kindness, his attention. But we don't want to just unnecessarily disturb him. So if it's not karma and it's not anyone else is to blame, then who is responsible? One great person has helped us and our family. There was a situation where my children were in Mayapur. We were in Mayapur. And it was a wonderful time in Mayapur. Every day we were going in the Ganga River, and we were all, there were some boats on the river, and the children were all jumping off the river from the boat into the river and playing and swimming. We were doing this every day. It was an ordinary activity. It was a beautiful, wonderful activity that we would do almost every day. I was there many times, and a few times I jumped off the boat, and we're all playing and jumping off the boat into the river. And one day I was not there. I didn't experience this firsthand, but my daughter did, Jamuna. And they were playing like this one day, jumping off the boat. Everyone was happy. One boy jumped off the boat and he never came up. And they started frantically looking for him. And they were all jumping down, diving down. Where is he? Where? We can't find him. Oh, maybe he went to the shore. Maybe he's okay. Maybe he left. Maybe, and they didn't know what to think. It was bewildering, terrible experience. And sometime later, some fishermen found his body and pulled it up, and he had passed. So we were all very unhappy, bewildered. My daughter was beside herself because she had been right there. It's a terrible tragedy to experience. And I requested one saintly devotee to please speak with her. And they said to her, when we are engaged in an ordinary activity, something that we do every day, we drive the car, we jump off boats into the river, we're playing, we're whatever, and something extraordinary happens, something unusual, out of the ordinary happens, that it's the inexplicable will of the Lord. No one understands it. The Lord wants to take him back. The Lord wants to make all the other people serious about their life and their direction, where they're going. Who knows all the other lessons that could be there? So it happens in our life. You're going along a regular everyday thing. You say goodbye to your loved one in the morning, just like every other day, and they did never come back. So these things happen. It's the inexplicable will of the Lord. So when the message is bewildering, is it our karma? Is it the inexplicable will of the Lord? Who's to blame? No one's to blame. Then what do I do? So the message may be bewildering. Then I like to, I take this prayer as a very consoling prayer for myself. And it's a universal prayer that many, many people use across the world. The prayer is, Lord, give me the serenity to accept those things I cannot change. Give me the courage to change what I can and the wisdom to know the difference. This is a Vaishnava prayer. This is a devotee prayer. All those who are devoted to God, they pray this. I will please you're the one, you're the source of my courage, that I can change certain things in my life that I need to change. If I have some dysfunctional behavior, I need to change that to become more godly. If I have a wrong paradigm or belief that has not been serving my spiritual progress, then I need to change that. So I need the courage. Lord, you're the source of that courage. And what I can't change, give me the serenity so my mind is not bewildered. Please, I pray for the serenity to accept what I can't change as your ultimate, your mercy, your thunderbolt mercy or kind mercy. And the wisdom to know the difference. The wisdom also is coming from the Lord. There's a little story I have that I've told many times, but not to this crowd. So I was in Delhi and Prabhupada was visiting and I was doing many services for him. We were in the room, there was about 15 of us, and Prabhupada was speaking very strongly about karma and how everyone is enjoying this much or suffering this much according to their activities. And at one point he said, but when you become a devotee, then no more karma, no more suffering, no more enjoyment. And he kept stressing this, that a devotee has no suffering, no enjoyment, and no karma. So at one point he stopped in the conversation. So I was questioning this. It's a little bewildering. So I raised my hand. I said, Srila Prabhupada, you said a devotee has no suffering or enjoyment, but sometimes we feel happy and sometimes we feel distressed. So what is that? Is that to the extent that I'm not pure, I'm experiencing these things? Or I was trying to rationalize. And Prabhupada said, it's all Krishna, it's all Krishna. It's not karma. Once you try to surrender to the Lord, it's not karma, it's all Krishna. And he said, anytime you're feeling happy, that is coming from Krishna. And I blurted out, but the distress too, Srila Prabhupada. Because I was thinking quickly in my head, yeah, I understand the happiness is coming from Krishna. You chant the holy names, you're in bliss, everything's fine, you know. All the distress seems very tiny in the midst of this happiness of the holy names and this life, devotional life. So I can understand the happiness is coming from Krishna, but the distress too, Srila Prabhupada. And he says, it's all Krishna. And he says, just like the chatak bird. And he went like this. The chatak bird is constantly asking, praying to the clouds, where is rain? Where is rain? He's always looking up at the sky. Where is rain? Where is rain? But sometimes he doesn't get rain. Sometimes he gets thunderbolt. And Prabhupada went like that to me. And everyone laughed. And then he said, yes, sometimes he gets thunderbolt. But still, he doesn't go to the puddles, to the rivers for his water. He will only keep praying to the sky for rain. So in times of difficulty, it is not that we don't feel it. It's not that we don't suffer. It's not that we don't become a little bewildered, but we go on praying to the Lord, give me the serenity to accept. Give me the courage to change what I can and give me the wisdom to know it's all, you're the source of these powers, of this energy that I need to get closer to you. So there's so much more. This could be a 2 or 3 part seminar, if you like. Actually, in Spain, I'll be giving, not in Spain, in Russia, I'll be giving a 2 or 3 part seminar on this topic. So right now we'll stop. Let me just end with this one little quote that I came up with from the scripture. Those who are devoted to the Lord, they don't fear trouble and death. They fear separation from God, separation from Krishna. That's our biggest fear. So any comments or questions?
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you so much for sharing your time and enlightening us and guiding us with a lot of information and some of the experiences you directly had with Prabhupada. Maybe off the topic, I want to ask one thing. I know you grown up in Western culture and with from the initial birth itself, right? But what made you to surrender yourself, and how you were able to connect to Krishna consciousness, and more than anything, how you were able to surrender to Srila Prabhupada? What made you to go to that stage?
Wow. Thank you. That's a beautiful question because it helps me to reflect on my purpose. I had a very pious family upbringing. They were Italian Catholics, loving people. I imbibed from my father the devotion of Catholicism. There's a lot of bhakti in the Catholic faith and in other faiths. Bhakti is not, we don't have a monopoly on bhakti, on love for God. We don't have a monopoly on that. No one has a monopoly on love for God. It's the inherent desire, ultimate desire for every living soul. So no, it doesn't matter. It crosses all cultures. It crosses all barriers. It's transcendent. And my father was a very devout person. And he would tell me stories about Jesus, all the beautiful stories of how kind he was to everyone. And he made me want to live that time. He imbibed in me the desire to want to be like that, kind to everyone and close to God. So one time I asked him, I was only 7 or 8, and I asked him, you're telling me all these beautiful stories about Jesus. And at night, when a father tells the child stories, sometimes he would tell little cartoon stories and fun things. And he would say, what story do you want to hear? And I'd say, tell me about Jesus, tell me about Jesus. So he imbibed that in me. One time I asked him, well, you're telling me all these beautiful things, but what about all the people in the world that don't have a chance to hear all the beautiful things about Jesus Christ? What about them? What happens to them? And my father was a very honest and thoughtful person. He didn't just try to cover over that, oh, I know everything, so I'll just throw out this answer, or they're going to hell. He wasn't like that. He actually thought, I remember he took time, to answer. And then he said, well, I think that God, because he's all good, he has some plan for them too. So that kind of character that my father had helped me be a devotee from a young age. Later on, I ended up becoming a vegetarian at the age of 14. Just as soon as I heard someone was a vegetarian, I said, what is that? And they said, we don't want to hurt animals, so we are kind to the animals. I have so many stories that lead up to these things, but time is short. So at the age of 14, I decided that that's me. Of course, I don't want to hurt animals. If I can live like that, then of course. So I went home and told my parents, I'm a vegetarian, and my parents, somehow they accommodated it. It was strange to them, but they accommodated it. And I was a seeker of the truth from the very beginning, pretty much. I have one story. You're asking, how did I accept Prabhupada? Well, without knowing, a gyata, you could call it a gyata experience. I was walking, I was in the 7th grade, so that made me about 12 years old. I was with my friend, a girlfriend, and we were just walking and talking. Oh, what are we going to do to enjoy life? And it was September, and it was school had just started, and I had chosen to go to a Catholic school instead of public school. I requested that from my parents, and they accommodated that because I wanted to know more about God. So I was in this new school, and my old friend from the old school, she was saying, well, what are you going to do? Like, what are you going to do to have fun? And that's what she meant. And when she said, what are you going to do? I remember, I don't know why, but I was overwhelmed with some inner feeling, like I took it very deeply. What am I going to do with my life? What am I meant to do with my life? I took it like that for some reason, even though I knew what she meant. And I turned around, and when I turned around, I saw the trees were blowing in the breeze, and I felt something stirring inside me at the same time. And I thought, something's happening here. And as I turned back, I thought, I have to find out the absolute truth. Now, I was 12 years old. I don't think I used words like that, absolute truth. But I remember those words, and I thought, wow, I know it meant God, but it was like, where did that come from? That deep desire that is what I'm meant to do. And I always remember that. Of course, I didn't answer her in this way because she wouldn't have understood, and I knew that. So I just said, I was a little shaken, and I don't know what I want to do. I don't know. What are you going to do? You know, just threw it back at her. But I always remember that this is a moment I must remember, that the breeze was moving me inside to say, I must find the absolute truth. So now, fast forward 2 years later, and I'm 16, 4 years later, I'm 16. And I become, I get acquainted with Krishna consciousness, and I start reading Prabhupada's literature. And that moved me, that, oh my God, these are the answers. This is the absolute truth. This is exactly what I was looking for. And I was a new devotee, and I was hearing how Prabhupada had come to America in September in Boston. And I started calculating, where was I at that moment? I lived in Boston. I was brought up in Boston area. So right on the ocean in Boston, north of Boston. And so I calculated the month, the time of year, September. And around the same time, right after school had started, Prabhupada came in late September. So school was already in session. This was around the same time I had this experience, and the same year that Prabhupada had come. And he set foot on the Boston Harbor, and he's offering that prayer, heartfelt prayer. How will I make them Krishna conscious? Krishna, it's only your mercy that will help me speak the words that will affect their hearts. So he's praying, this desire is coming out. And I calculated, as the crow flies, I was only 15, 20 minutes away from Prabhupada that same month, that same year. I don't know if it was the same day or around that time, but in transcendent time, it doesn't matter. But I believe now that his prayer was in the breeze, the same month, same year, only 15 minutes away. His desire was coming into the breeze and affecting many hearts, not just mine. Because I always remembered that experience is so profound, and it changed my life. So without even knowing, without seeing, without hearing, without reading, without having ever heard, the Hare Krishna movement did not exist yet, I feel I was affected by Prabhupada. So it was very easy. As soon as I read his first words, it was very easy for me to see, oh, he knows what I need to learn. And I'm going to learn it from him. I have more stories about that at another time.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's the power of a saintly person. His desire, his intention, Krishna's carrying it and fulfilling it and making things move and happen, changing our hearts.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Anybody on Zoom, if you guys have any questions, please do unmute yourself, and any questions or comments, more than welcome. I'm trying to see if there's anything on Facebook. Yeah, so far nothing from Facebook world, Mataji.
So Krishna's, Prabhupada, the saintly people are our well-wishers. The whole disciplic succession, they're our well-wishers. And we must now become the well-wishers of everyone. So that is the message. Is anything else? Otherwise, thank you very much. I have a poem, if you want me to read it, about the wheels of time. Since no one is asking questions, should I do that?
Yes, please.
Okay, I wrote this poem. The wheels of time. Time is constant. Time is constantly moving and changing. In time, everything is manifested, and in time, it is all destroyed. Time is but a relative illusion, yet it is the most tangible and calculative thing. Time is the great healer. In time, we may be able to get through what we cannot get over. Time flies and time stands still, but only for a moment. Time waits for no one, yet we all wait for what time has in store. Time holds our memories, both good and bad. Time also holds our hopes and our tears and fears. We have lost the past and hope for the future, but it is only in this present moment of time that we can be sure. Time can be on our side, or time can act against us. Time exhilarates us and then bores us. Time can be elusive and easily slip through our fingers, yet it is powerful, persistent, and precise. We may lose track of time, but time does not lose track of us. Time is precious, always to be respected. Time takes our breath away, and then it takes our life. Time is the great equalizer.
Wonderful, wonderful.
That's Krishna as time. Inexplicable.
Thank you. Yep. All right. I think, Mataji, thank you so much again, one more time. Appreciate your time, and we are looking forward for you to come, coming weeks, and give us more, more intro. Maybe some of the, delightful moments that you, very interesting moments that you had and spent time with Prabhupada. Probably that would be another interesting topic for us.
Sure. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity, and have a beautiful, blessed, and happy day and life. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Vanchakalpatarubhyasya kripasindhubhyo vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Hare Bol.
Thank you all.